Welcome back to the Macau Grand Prix and day 2 of the action, which will see race 2 of the FGT3 series, the FF3M series, but first the FF4M Nippon series, which will see Ju Young Park start from pole position in race 2, the final race of the FF4M series. He'll be joined by race 1 winner Yuji Wada on the front row, with Makoto An and Sora Suzuki sharing row 2. Then we've got Kitagawa, Yang, Hasegawa and Williams in the top 8. So the 5 lights go out, and away well is Park. Very well actually, as he has got a bit of a buffer over Yuji Wada going into the first kink. And we got some action further back. We've got Williams, who's just overtaken Zikri Yang for 6th position. An has held on to 3rd ahead of Suzuki at 4th. Kitagawa has held on to 5th, but Ju Young Park has got a fair bit of a lead over Yuji Wada, who himself is fairly comfortable in 2nd place. But here is the acid test. Lisboa corner. It's got a very wide entry, followed by a very narrow exit, and Sora Suzuki, but it's Williams. Joshua Williams has taken 3rd, and there's an accident further back. That is Suzuki, and another one off as well. Who is that? It's Emily Davison again. She did that in race 1, and she's done it again in race 2 on the first lap as well. So she's rejoined, but she'll need a new front wing, which in a 10-lap race at Macau, that's basically race over. But it is Ju Young Park who leads from Yuji Wada, and Joshua Williams, after a cracking start, is up into 3rd position, ahead of Makoto An. In 5th position is Zikri Yang, and we've got Cooper in 6th, that is Dixon Cooper for Team Katayama. And then Kitagawa is in 7th position, and completing the top 8 is Akechi, that's Kunimitsu Akechi, driving for the Shimizu team. And through the difficult right-hander with an uphill braking zone and a slightly bumpy apex. And now into the left-hand hairpin, which is nicely cambered. Looks quite a fun corner, sort of similar to the Hugenholtz corner at Zandvoort. But here is the infamous Melco hairpin. Very, very tight, and in real-life Macau races, this is yellow flagged during the first lap of the race, and possibly for the entirety of it because of its narrowness and tightness. Arguably even tighter than that Lowe's hairpin at Monaco. But it widens as we go through the penultimate corner of Reservoir Bend, and you can see there how much wider it is compared to corners like Melco hairpin, and I believe there's San Francisco as well. And this is the final corner, which is R-Bend. The pits are on the outside here, and completing the first lap, Ju Young Park ahead of Yuji Wada, the race 1 winner of Macau, and then Joshua Williams in 3rd position ahead of Makoto An, Zikri Yang in 5th, Dixon Cooper 6th, and then we have got Kitagawa in 7th, and Kunimitsu Akechi in 8th position. There's Takao Kitagawa, and looking further back, is anybody under pressure? Doesn't look like it. They do space out quite a bit at this Macau circuit. Here we are with Hasegawa challenging Akechi going into Lisboa. That's late, and that's contact, and that is Akechi into the wall, and that is Hasegawa getting away with it. Now we're looking on board with Shun, whatever his surname is, I'll have to look at that, Nakamura, and that's up the inside going into the second kink, and that is a position gain, no problem. There's more action. That's Kazuyoshi Nijima getting ahead of his rival into 9th position. Now his next target is the rather sheepish Hasegawa in 8th position. Meanwhile, we've got some more action, more contact into Lisboa, and that is a front wheel gone. That is unfortunate there for Shun Nakamura. We saw him on the move, but now he's moved into the barrier, courtesy of the driver behind. Halfway through the race now, and Ju Young Park holds a 2.6 second lead over Yuji Wada, but here's an unusual sight in the short FF4M race: traffic. As up the inside goes Park, this is nervous times for him. He's in a championship battle with Daisuke Sakiya, who's not having a good Macau weekend. He's not really featured at all. And this is not what Park needs, as the traffic is back up the inside, but they get through Lisboa safely. But he holds on to the lead for now. Now we're looking at some more action. There's Zubitoy getting a bit defensive and getting a bit of contact, and into the invisible wall, and a loss of front wing. Now, can he rejoin with no problems? He's found reverse gear. I think he's just about gotten away with staying in the race, but race trashed. And we're about to start the final lap now, and Ju Young Park has got a slightly less comfortable gap now over Yuji Wada. It's 1.6 seconds, and the traffic that was bothering him a few laps ago has actually pulled away a little bit, presumably on slightly fresher tyres. I would assume they would change the tyres if they're making a pit stop. So it seems a bit more... It's more comfortable, but less comfortable at the same time for Ju Young Park. And the gap is 9 points between himself and Daisuke Sakiya. Sakiya's on 110, looks likely that he'll remain on that tally. And it's 12 points for a win as well, so Ju Young Park looking good to steal the championship away from Sakiya, who's way down the order. Meanwhile, Yuji Wada in second, won race 1 of the Macau weekend, which was pretty handy because he'd been involved in a battle for promotion between himself and Satoru Takamaki, who himself is not having a good Macau weekend. And if Wada stays there, he could take third in the championship from Hideki Soken, once again not having a good Macau weekend. And further back, Makoto An holds on to 4th position, behind Joshua Williams in 3rd position, which is a good drive and a good start. Zikryang in 5th position, a little bit of a fact of Zikryang in the 2012 FF4M series. He got into a bit of argy-bargy with Genjo Chi, who is going to be a Willows driver for 2014 and 15, the FF2M Asia series, and that gave Chi a bit of a 2-race suspended ban. And Zikryang didn't really like that. Dixon Cooper holding on to 6th position ahead of 7th place Takao Kitagawa, and then completing the top 8 at the moment is Yoshihasu Hasegawa. Yoshi Hasegawa, as he prefers to be called. But we're focusing on this driver here, the South Korean Ju Young Park, who looks certain to take the championship once he negotiates this final corner. No such problems here, and out of the final corner, there's the checkered flag, and there is the championship for Ju Young Park. Congratulations to himself, who took that from underneath Daisuke Sakiya's nose after a poor weekend for the Japanese driver. Confirmation, Ju Young Park is the FF4M Nippon champion, and he'll join the likes of Hunter Donahue, who won the FF4M Pan Am series, and Caterina Caracciola, who won the Euro series. So there's confirmation of the results. Park from Wada, and Williams 3rd ahead of An, Yang, Cooper, and completing the top 8, Kitagawa and Hasegawa, the 2 Gawa twins. And Hideki Soken down in 12th and Takamaki down in 13th. Soken will go through to FF3M next season, but Takamaki must wait another season. There's confirmation of the championship. 6 points to buffer between Park and Sakiya, and Wada does pinch Soken's 3rd place by a single point. And so we now move on to the FGT3 Super Cup, the final race of the inaugural season, which sees Esteban Gutierrez start from pole position ahead of Sam Bird, and we've got Bruno Senna in 3rd ahead of Guido van der Garde 4th, Pastor Maldonado and Lucas Di Grassi 5th and 6th, and Raffaele Marciello and Nelson Piquet 7th and 8th. There is a championship battle here as well. We've got Lucas Di Grassi on 58 points, current championship leader, but his nearest rival Sam Bird on 57 points, and Bird holds the advantage in qualifying. He starts 2nd with Di Grassi down in 6th, so Di Grassi needs a bit of a special race, which begins now. And who gets away well from the front row? It looks like Gutierrez, as Sam Bird slots into 2nd position, but still close behind Gutierrez as we go through the first kink, long straight into the 2nd kink, and Bird is having a look at Gutierrez into the 2nd corner. Similarly, Di Grassi is looking at Van der Garde, but nothing of that just yet. And side by side, it's Bird versus Gutierrez. Bird is on the inside going into Lisboa, and Bird takes the lead in what could be a very important move for the championship. And into the barrier goes Marciello. Marciello into the barriers, and there's another driver as well. It's Piquet. Nelson Piquet has got himself stranded as well. Marciello has found reverse and rejoined, but Piquet, well, he had an outside shot of the championship, just 12 points behind Di Grassi with roughly 15 on offer. In fact, Piquet was 10 points behind Di Grassi with 15 on offer, but that is his championship trashed. The other championship contender is Bruno Senna, 12 points behind Di Grassi, and still could mathematically win it, but the advantage at the moment is with Sam Bird, the former Horizon driver, who raced in FF1M for 2 seasons in 2012 and 2013. 2012 he scored points on his debut with a 7th place at a wet Melbourne, keeping out of trouble as most were losing theirs. 2013 was a bit more of a handful with a slightly less competitive Horizon car, but Bird still managed an 8th place at Spa that season, to date FF1M's last wet race. In the present, he is currently leading from Esteban Gutierrez, a former FJR driver who raced in 2013, but unceremoniously dumped after a very, very difficult season where he couldn't get up to grips with his car and wasn't on the pace of Lewis Hamilton, who himself had a dreadful season in 2013. But right now, Gutierrez is in second, behind Sam Bird, and in front of Lucas Di Grassi, another former FF1M driver. There's quite a lot of former FF1M drivers in this field, the top 6 consisting of those. In 7th we have got Alexander Rossi, who raced for the Danish racing team in the 2014 FF2M season, and we've got another FF2M experienced hand in 8th in the form of Fabio Lima. And just looking further back, there's Oliver Turvey, there's Kazuki Nakajima having a think about getting ahead of Alice Powell, as into the pits comes Nelson Piquet and Raffaele Marciello. And once again it's a short race here, so that's their race pretty much over. Nice colour scheme on Marciello's car. Here's Sam Bird, braking for the left in the middle of the Macau circuit. Didn't quite a good job here of the GP4 creators. That's a brave move around the outside. Is Kazuki Nakajima on, I presume, Alice Powell. And Powell now in trouble because she has got Davide Valsecchi up the inside into Lisboa corner, and that is a position gain for the Italian driver. Now Powell must be careful of Alfonso Celis in 19th position, and there's Naoki Yamamoto in 20th. There is Yamamoto, and he's going to have a look at Celis Jr. to be exact. Down the main straight, punctuated by 2 kinks. And is Yamamoto close enough to do anything about Celis? I don't think so. And into Lisboa, nowhere near close enough. So it's quite difficult to follow around the Macau circuits, especially when everybody's using the same car. That's why I've seen very little in the way of position changes. As we have another look at Sam Bird, who at this point would become champion if he stays where he is. Lucas Di Grassi needs to find something special if he's going to maintain his championship lead and become the victor of the inaugural FGT3 series, which started at Melbourne in round 1. Then it moved on to the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez for the second round. That was won by Bruno Senna. First round was won by Sam Bird. Then we went to Road America, where Di Grassi won, and then at the Circuit Gilles Villeneuve, Senna won that one, and then Silverstone, Bird took a home win. And then at Monza, Lucas Di Grassi won that particular race. The first one to do the pole, fastest lap and win in the FGT3 series. Actually, I'm incorrect. Bruno Senna did that at Montreal. Then at the first race at Macau was won by Nelson Piquet to keep himself in with a slim championship chance, but his first lap incident with Marciello has thrown that out of the window. And it seems as if it's going to be a straight fight now between Bird and Di Grassi, with Gutierrez proving the disruptor in the fight. There's an ambulance waiting around the outside at Melco Hairpin. It's very slow, so I wouldn't expect drivers to crunch it into the wall and injure themselves, unless there's a pile-up traffic jam. No such problems in this particular race. And about to start his final lap is Sam Bird, through our bend across the grid hatchings. No checkered flag just yet, which means that we are now on to the final lap of the race. Bird holds a 2-second lead over Esteban Gutierrez, who himself holds another 2-second lead over Lucas Di Grassi. Geerdo van der Garde is 4th, just 1 second behind Lucas Di Grassi. There he is into shot, and then just at the top there is Bruno Senna. And Bruno Senna's last FF1M race was at Monza in 2014. He actually scored a podium finish, inherited from Jean-Eric Vergne, who suffered a very unfortunate mechanical failure on the last lap. And immediately after Monza, Senna was replaced by Thomas Gonzalez, who showed speed, but the car was abysmally unreliable, so hopefully for Tornado's sake they'll get that sorted for 2015. As Gonzalez is a quick driver, as is Fernando Alonso, who will be his teammate. Pastor Maldonado in 6th position, just 1.3 seconds behind Senna, but nothing like close enough to make some sort of move. And 7th and 8th separated by just a second, Rossi and Lima, two FF2M stalwarts. And unless Lima can produce something special, that looks pretty much dead set as well. Just a few more corners to go now for Sam Bird, and he's got a comfortable buffer over Esteban Gutierrez. Through a few kinks before the final 2 corners, circuit gets quite a lot wider at this point, at the exit of this corner. So, just one more corner to go now, and it's been a very, very solid drive from Sam Bird, who took the lead from Gutierrez on the first lap, out of the final corner. And it is going to be Sam Bird who takes the final win of the FGT3 series, and in doing so becomes the champion. So Sam Bird, the inaugural champion of the FGT3 series, took the fastest lap as well, just to make sure. Gutierrez closed 3/10 on that last lap, but ultimately 1.7 seconds off of the win. And it's Lucas Di Grassi who comes home 3rd ahead of Geerdo van der Garde, Bruno Senna in 5th ahead of Maldonado, Rossi 7th and Fabio Lima 8th. Rossi from 11th on the grid as well, that's not too bad. And then no retirements in this race, but Nelson Piquet and Raffaele Marciello, they might as well have, considering their first laps. So 6 points is the gap between Bird and Di Grassi at the end, the same as Ju Young Park and Daisuke Sakiya in FF4M Nippon. Bruno Senna moves up to 3rd in the championship ahead of Nelson Piquet, and the first of the non-winners, Esteban Gutierrez, 5th in the championship ahead of Pastor Maldonado, who did not complete all races. So now we move on to the final race of the FF3M series of the 2014 season, and it's been a season-long battle between James Clark and Mattia Alfonsi. The advantage holds to Clark at the moment. He sits on 142 points, which is a 10-point lead over Alfonsi, who sits on 132 points. But it is advantage Alfonsi for the grid of race 2 as he takes pole position ahead of Mason Taylor. James Clark will start 3rd ahead of Alessandro Farina, who sits 3rd in the championship. Mario Da Silva will start 5th ahead of Francesco Russo for the Bellini team. Nolan Bryant will start 7th ahead of Harrison Evans in 8th. Row 5 will see Vaino Kiminen in 9th ahead of Jonas Meyer in 10th. Chuck Buckingham leads row 6 ahead of João Vitor Oliveira for the Piritelli team. And it's Jay Folmer in 13th ahead of Diego Berti, who will start 14th in the other Piritelli. Bram de Boer will start 15th ahead of Alexander McDonald in 16th. Then we've got Joseph Allen in the other Puma in 17th ahead of Keiji Sakamoto. Masanori Shido starts 19th ahead of Javier Souza in the first of the 2 Blaze cars. And then the last row consists of Jonas Muller and Santino Garcia in the other Blaze. So here we are, the starting grid. 5 lights are on, and for the final time, the 5 lights will be going out now, and it's Alfonsi leading from pole position. Looks like a great start from himself. Taylor versus Clark into the first corner, but advantaged Mason Taylor, currently holding on to 2nd position. And there's a big crash further back. Now, who was that has lost a lot of wheels? I couldn't quite see who that was. Is that Bram de Boer, I believe it is, because he's dropped down to 22nd and last. Indeed, it is de Boer, and the inside has got contact, and that is Alfonsi in the barriers! Alfonsi in the barriers, and that surely is the end of his championship, and more carnage further back, and, well, goodness me, wheels off everywhere, and front wings gone. That was started. Who made contact with him? Was it Taylor? We're having a look at Bram de Boer first of all. 3 wide into the first kink. That is not recommended, and nearly going upside down. And then more contact with other drivers further back. I think we are on board with Bram de Boer. You can see the lights going out. Gets a decent launch. Not quite as good as the driver in front of him on the left, though. So let's see. Trying to get the inside here, but there's another driver there, and, well, just a 3 into 1 doesn't really go. So that's the end of Bram de Boer's race, and then further up we saw Alfonsi getting a nudge from Mason Taylor. So Alfonsi shutting the door right into the path of Taylor, and then Taylor, well, just losing downforce and braking too late. Here's another incident between Diego Berti, and Diego Berti going upside down and getting violently flung and getting absolutely shunted by one of the Blazes, I thought that was. Keiji Sakamoto is shown as retired. And who else has been involved? Jonas Meyer, I think, has been involved in an incident. Indeed, he has been, because he's shown as retired, and that as Alfonsi is confirmed as retired from the race as well. So James Clark is the champion. It is now official, because Alfonsi cannot score any points. Clark currently sitting in 3rd in the race, behind Alessandro Farina and Da Silva, moving up into 2nd position, avoiding all the chaos. And it's Farina who sets the fastest lap so far, having been just the first lap. Mario Da Silva 2nd, James Clark in 3rd, and then we've got Francesco Russo in the one remaining Bellini in 4th position. Then we got Evans in 5th, Bryant 6th, Chuck Bucknam in 7th, Vino Kiminen in 8th. Bucknam and Kiminen took part in the Young Drivers tests for Mitchell and Tornado respectively. There is Kiminen chasing the black car of Chuck Bucknam. Charles Bucknam is actually his real name, although in America they refer to Charles as Chucks sometimes. Into the pits comes Masanori Shido for a new front wing, and there's another driver behind as well. It's Jonas Muller in one of the 2 Gordon cars. There is Jonas, and it's going to be Shido who will leave the pits out of these 2 first. Were there other drivers who got involved as well? I think I did see a couple of Blazes get involved, but that Blaze that hit the upside down Bertie could well have just been a Gordon, because both Blazes are up in 12th and 13th after avoiding the chaos of the first lap. Javier Souza and Santino Garcia. As we concentrate on Alessandro Farina, who leads the race, and there behind him 2.299 seconds further back is Mario Da Silva in 2nd position. James Clark, the new FF3M champion, is in 3rd, ahead of Francesco Russo in 4th. And in the order remaining the same further back, Evans from Bryant, Bucknam and Kiminen. As we have a look at Farina going through the S's and then the difficult braking zone into the 3rd sector. Slightly longer race in FF3M compared to the FF4M Nippon and the FGT3 series, as we are on lap 13 out of, I assume, 15, because we might have had 15 laps in the first race, but I could be wrong on that one, as Farina goes through the exceedingly tight Melco hairpin and accelerating to the final couple of corners. Here's one of them, Reservoir Corner. No such problems for Farina. As the circuit widens into the final corner, the pit entrance starts on the left-hand side. You go straight for that, but Farina's not interested in that, as he starts another lap, and he's pulled out the gap between himself and Da Silva to over 7 seconds now. We're waiting quite a while for 7.5 seconds before Da Silva starts his new lap. He's got James Clark 1.3 seconds behind, And the championship winner of FF3M goes through to FF2M automatically for the 2015 season, so Clark is virtually guaranteed a drive. As we go on board with the new world champion as he chases Mario da Silva for second position, this is coming out of the first sector, that was the corner after Lisboa, into a couple of S's. It gets quite narrow at this point, 6 laps remaining, so I think it's around a 19 lap race, is this particular race at Macau. You can see some catch fencing surrounding Clark as he goes through the series of S's. It's almost like he's in a tunnel. And then plunging downhill, and then uphill once again as we enter the third sector. You can see he's closing in on Da Silva now, so he could well be challenging for second position before the race is done. And we enter the Hugenholtz style hairpin. I imagine that's quite a nice corner to drive in real life. And further back we've got Rousseau still in fourth. There is super tight Melco hairpin. From onboard it looks a lot tighter than it is. Evans in 5th position at the moment, ahead of Nolan Bryan in 6th, Chuck Buckingham 7th, Vino Kiminen 8th, and then João Vitor Oliveira is in 9th position. In 10th we have got Fulmer, and then in 11th we have got Joseph Allen. 12th is Javier Souza. 13th we've got Alexander McDonald, who was overtaken. In fact, Garcia's dropped down the order because he was running 13th. Now he's behind McDonald, Diego Berti. Is that Diego Berti moving right up the order after his first lap shenanigans? That's not a bad effort, actually. Mason Taylor, the culprit of the first lap incident, is in 15th position ahead of Garcia. Shido 17th. And then the next series of drivers are either way down the order or retired. They include Jonas Muller. Then we have got Keiji Sakamoto, and then Jonas Meyer, and then a big retirement in the form of Mattia Alfonsi, and then 22nd Bram de Boer. As onto the final lap now goes Alessandro Farina, who appeared at the Young Drivers Test for Gajera, and that test seems to have done him a bit of good because he is leading by quite a distance from Mario da Silva, who's still ahead of James Clark, so I think as soon as Clark has gotten close, he hasn't been able to do anything about Da Silva. We'll see further back once we focused on Farina's probable victory, if he keeps it on the road. Now he's going through a series of undulating corners. There's the big downhill drop into the difficult braking zone of the third sector entry, in between threading the needle of buildings. And now entering the final series of corners now. And just a quick recap on the actual season. The first race was won by Vino Kiminen. It was at the Jacarapagua circuit. Race 2 of that particular meeting was won by Mattia Alfonsi. And it was at race 2 of Circuit de Pau where Alessandro Farina took his first victory of the season. That was in race 2. He shared that one with James Clark. And since then it's just been a Clark and Alfonsi show until now, because out the final corner to take the final win of the season is Alessandro Farina for Typhoon Racecraft. And Mario da Silva must surely come home in second position, ahead of James Clark. We'll have that confirmed in due course. Yep, there is da Silva ahead of Clark, and then Francesco Russo comes home in fourth position, ahead of Evans. And there's the slowdown lap. And Mario da Silva cheekily has overtaken, and in fact he hasn't, there is the new world champion James Clark. They look quite similar, do the McPherson and Typhoon teams. But there are some differences. Confirmation of the results, it was a 9.4 second lead that Farina had over da Silva in the end. Clark coming on third ahead of Russo, Harris and Evans. Nolan Bryant, Chuck Buckingham and Vino Kiminen completing the top 8. There you can see the list of non-finishers. Sakamoto, Meyer, Alfonsi and De Boer. De Boer's surely the most spectacular retirement of the Macau meeting so far. So we'll see the championship standings in a moment, but it is James Clark who won the championship by 14 points in the end from Mattia Alfonsi, but a good battle between those two throughout the season nonetheless. Farina finishes third in the championship and the highest placed rookie, ahead of Vaino Kimonen on 69 points. Mason Taylor sixth ahead of Nolan Bryant, which is a good effort from Taylor as he hadn't won a race all season and Bryant had. And then further back you can see 5 drivers failing to score points: Joseph Allen, Keiji Sakamoto, Jonas Muller, Masanori Shido and Santino Garcia. And that concludes the FF3M series of 2014. We'll be back next season with some brand new faces and a few familiar ones. We shall see you then.